What's up, everybody? Blueprint here. I'm going to do a quick demo of this Yamaha RX-15 drum machine. I got this unit from Craigslist this past weekend for about 50 bucks, and they seem to go for about 50 to 75, 80, maybe 100 bucks on average wherever you see them. The Yamaha RX-15 is actually a vintage drum machine from the 80s. It wasn't the most popular drum machine. I'd say the rolling line of drum machines were probably the most popular from that era, the 808, 606, 707. But this one was still pretty popular. I want to do a demo on this because a lot of the stuff I saw online, the quality was bad, or they didn't really talk about the layout of the machine in a way that will let you know exactly what you're getting. So I kind of want to talk about the features, the layout, and who this machine is for, first and foremost. If you're a producer and you have some outboard gear and you're curious about older drum machines, hopefully this will kind of help you make the decision. So the first thing I want to talk about is that, like most 80s drum machines, you have a limited number of sounds. This is not a sampling drum machine. This has 12 sounds in it. You've got your rim shot, snare drum, you have 3 toms, bass drum, hi-hat closed, your open hi-hat, and then your close is that, your ride, your crash, clap, and cowbell or shaker. You can set to which one it is. I haven't got that far in the manual yet. This is me one day after reading the manual. Also, your layout, you have a start button here. You have a run, stop, continue. What you'll notice is that you don't really have a record button. Start activates record when you have it set in your real-time record mode. So you only have a stop and a start button. You don't have a dedicated record button. Over here on your left side, you have your pan control for each of these, accent level, which controls how much of this accent is on a sound when you have it, and then you have your instrument level right here, which controls the volume of each instrument. Up top, we have 2 rows of buttons. The first row of buttons is for your pattern. The second row of buttons is your numbers and is also for your songs. So when you're working in individual patterns, you'll be using the top row. When you're working on songs, you have the bottom row of buttons for the most part. And then you have some system functions like MIDI and save to tape and load certain things. But over here, you've got your volume, you have your master tempo, and you got your data entry knob. Pretty simple. The parameters here, you can write in real time or step mode. You got a copy, a swing control, which is pretty cool for an older drum machine. Quantize, click, which is your metronome, clear, and then you have another tempo marker right here. These 2 red buttons control basically your plus and minus. They actually are data entry. Yes and no, and your +1, -1 are right there. So the question becomes, who buys something like this, and what are the benefits of it? I say the first benefit of a drum machine like this is that the limited sounds and the style of sounds that this drum machine has will automatically put you in a place sonically where you can emulate what you heard on 80s records. You know, like these are pretty much sounds that are synonymous with the 80s and, you know, that style of music. So if you're doing electronic music, and if you're a newer electronic artist, what you'll notice is that this drum machine, more so than a lot of kits that you'll get, will kind of put you there. That's one benefit of it. Having all of your sounds and doing drum programming in a box, I think, separate from everything else, makes you think a little differently. I think that's benefit number 2. In that when you have something like this, you are more inclined to just sit around and bang out drum patterns all day, you know, as opposed to making a beat, worrying about the drums. That's one thing. The lack of emphasis on having a variety of drums also will put you in a place to where you are more into the pattern that you're programming, as opposed to just having the coolest sounds and programming the same patterns. That's a benefit as well. Another benefit of this thing, which is kind of unstated, is the sequencing. Very simple sequencing. I read the manual, maybe the first 10 pages of the manual, and once I got there, I was pretty much able to record and do everything I needed to do and create sequences. There's another feature of this, which is prevalent in pretty much all of the early 80s drum machines, which is the accent. I think that's the hidden secret feature of this that's actually pretty fresh. The accent button, they don't really have it. And if you're a Reason user, then you have something called flare that's a part of your redrum, which is kind of like the accent. So if you hold accent down, my ride's there. So what you can do, it messes with the velocity. So that's in the 80s you would hear a lot of people messing with the hi-hats like that with their dynamics. You don't hear a lot of people doing a lot of things with that, with the dynamics right now in production. People pretty much program a hi-hat where it's at. They don't really mess with. Whereas in the 80s they did that a lot. I think the accent button on here is very, very slick and underrated. One thing also to consider, a lot of people in the past would make me, they would send me WAV files where they would sample each individual hit from the drum machine. And then I would take those hits and then I would try to create things in that sound. What I noticed in doing that is that it never sounds the same as this machine. The thing that this machine has that you don't get when you take the individual sounds out, which is the same thing that the Roland line of drum machines has, is that this has a specific quantization, a specific and inherent swing to it that makes these things sound completely different than if you were to take these out and throw these in your MPC. In addition, you may be able to take the sounds out of here and throw them into your MPC or Reason or whatever individually, but you can't necessarily mimic the stereo mix that comes out of this machine. And that to me is actually what makes this machine and the older drum machines unique. It's not that these sounds are all that awesome. They're not. They are synonymous with the 80s, but what comes out of this machine in terms of quantization, in terms of the stereo mix you can create and output into your workstation or your recording console, is why these machines are dope. So that's my review. Here's a couple of patterns I created in the last day. Here's one of them. Oh, I'll stop. I think I'm a little too far ahead. These buttons scroll down through your patterns. Now I'm going down from pattern 80 through, start at 31. I don't know if this is mine or if this is one that someone left. 36. And this is a pretty simple one. The first one I did actually. Then I'll go to the next one. There's one of them and another one. Alright, that's about all I got. This is the RX-15 drum machine, 80s drum machine. It's pretty fresh if you can find it for cheap. Use it for your studio just to MIDI in some different drums, especially if you're using older synths. Can't hurt to have it. That's all I got. I'm going to do more of these reviews of older gear as time permits. Subscribe to the channel, Printmatic TV, and happy beat making. Peace.